Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable.
Mayweather makes a pay. What a rookie mistake.
A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Welcome back to episode 163 of the Last Round Podcast. Thank you again for joining us, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Boxing Social, wherever you're at, however you're listening. We appreciate it. Jumping right into it, fight reviews this past Saturday, the 5th of February, from the Motor Point Arena in Cardiff, Wales. I don't think we've ever talked about a fight at this arena. I don't remember saying that name, unless the name changed. Did it?
Good question. Good question.
I don't remember ever saying that arena name. So unless it was just, renamed, I don't think we've ever talked about it. Chris Eubank Jr. gets the 12-round unanimous decision win over Liam Williams. Williams was down 4 times in rounds 1, 2, 4, and 11. What'd you think about Eubank Jr.'s performance?
Strange performance from Eubank. A strange performance from Liam Williams. I think Liam Williams was kind of known to be like a bit of a brawler, somebody who could come in and kind of like just street fights more than boxes at times. But his chin I'm guessing he must have had a hard weight cut, which obviously, just dilutes you. Your body, you just can't take as much. Your legs don't feel as strong. And because that's what it looked like, because some of the punches he was going down from seemed like jabs. And I know Eubank kind of gestured that he kind of could have taken Williams out, but he kind of wanted to prolong the beating. He wanted to taunt him due to all the things that had been said. But just get him out of there. Just get him out of there. He needs that kind of performance, I think, Eubanks, just because he hasn't fought that much recently, and, he hasn't really got that. I would have said all of his biggest fights that he's had so far, he's lost. When he fought Billy Joe Saunders, George Groves. But, he got the W. He moves on to something else. Obviously Conor Benn was spoken about. Billy Joe Saunders was spoken about. I think Billy Joe Saunders is probably the more reasonable option now.
I can see that happening.
I just think you've got the fact that it's a rematch. Billy Joe Saunders probably brings in some money. Obviously, the Eubank Ben fight will be huge, but does Ben really want to move up and then come back down?
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, though. I
know, obviously, I think he's concentrating at 147. But the only thing is that I thought of as well is it's kind of a gimme for Conor Benn. He moves up, kind of like Khan did, kind of like Kell Brook did, fought the bigger guy. If he loses, it's like, well, I moved up, I dared to be great. I came back down again. Strike maybe while the iron's hot, get that money. But I think that fight will always be big in the UK, just due to the fact that, they both turned pro. And I think people at the time were like, will those guys ever meet? Are we going to get Eubank against Ben again? But they were, divisions apart. And I don't think we ever saw it. But if they meet in the middle, then, maybe we will. But I think at this moment in time, I would see the Eubank Billy Joe Saunders fight as something that we may see, because I think Billy Joe's probably just wants another cash out. I think he's already said on a conversation with Umar on IFL TV, he wants $5 million for the fight. So, that would have to be a big pay-per-view in the UK to generate that type of money.
We were talking about, just before we came on air, about the television ratings on Sky Sports for this fight. I think you had mentioned that this was the first time that they peaked at 1 million viewers or over 1 million viewers since Anthony Joshua fought
Gary Cornish.
Yeah, as he was, making his way up the ranks when he was younger. Are you surprised by that? Obviously, since you're from that area, is this surprising, or why did this happen?
I mean, obviously, I'm sure Matchroom has done higher ratings than that. Than obviously they were pay-per-view events. It does surprise me a little bit. I mean, I knew that Eubank was popular, but is he that popular? We didn't have boxing in the UK for a month. January it was closed down due to the British Border Boxing saying that they just couldn't do it at this time. They couldn't get enough doctors and nurses and stuff like that to the events to be able to put them on. So yeah, I mean, it's surprising. You know, it was a fairly big fight. You know, Eubank against Liam Williams, a lot of trash talk beforehand, stuff like that, promoted really, really well. So yeah, I mean, Eubank is that popular, I guess.
Obviously they're going to utilize that to their advantage in, you know, subsequent fight negotiations and stuff like that. I mean, because obviously the win that he got, the unanimous decision win, obviously helps a lot. But, you know, hitting a rating like that doesn't hurt at all in your negotiation power, right?
No, not at all. You know, it's outstanding, really, when you think about it. The population of the UK is like 70 million?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Right? So I mean, that's 1 in 7 houses was watching it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's outstanding when you look at it like that, right? It just shows, you know, that Sky Sports did kind of unveil him as like their marquee signing, you know, with that Sauerland and, you know, Boxer deal. And now you can understand why.
I know we talked about him against Billy Joe Saunders, but again, in a rematch. But honestly, if I was Eubank Jr., I'd go after Triple G. You know, maybe Triple G's open. He's probably not open to going across the pond anymore. I think he's older now, so he's like, I'm not going over there anymore. But you know, if that's possible, Triple G, you know, over there in England, because when Triple G went over there to fight Kell Brook, that was a big event.
No, yeah, it was. I know that the management team have spoken about that's who they wanted. They wanted Triple G or Murata. There was talk on an interview that I think those two still have a contract in place due to the fight getting postponed on like New Year's Eve.
We haven't heard anything about that.
No, I don't know what. Are they thinking that maybe that they've put the feelers out and nobody really wants to see it now? And obviously, it's like a tradition, isn't it, over in Japan, where they were going to fight. They do like a big event, like a big fight on New Year's Eve is like their tradition. So that was going to be it. So maybe the fact that they haven't got that date now, they're thinking, is it going to sell as much? Is it going to generate that type of money that they could pay someone like a Triple G? So it's it's interesting. You know, Canelo's looking for a dance partner May 5th.
Yeah, it's also COVID too. I think Japan. I think the United States just put Japan on like a high risk travel country because of COVID cases. I believe I saw that recently, that they're on that list, like an advisory list. So I remember when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's not going to help any fights over there, you know, especially Triple G Murata. And it's February, and this was supposed to be New Year's. So, you know, I mean, yeah, I honestly think that if they're going to fight, they should just make that fight over here in the United States. But I know they really want that Japanese market because of Murata, which I understand. But I don't know. Are they just going to wait? Or should Triple G just move on? You know? Because I think I honestly think that's the point that he's at. He's like, oh, okay, well, I can't wait for Japan to open back up just to get this fight over there. Like, he needs to fight. They both need to fight, but especially him, you know. But we'll see. We will see. Also on the card, Clarissa Shields remains undefeated, 12-0, after getting the 10-round unanimous decision win over Emma Kozin. Shields retains her WBC, WBA, IBF, and WBF. That's a new one. Middleweight world titles. I think Shields is always a favorite in a lot of these fights. But I think the biggest story to come out of that fight was after this win, when her and Savannah Marshall got into it. What was your take on that?
You had the idea that obviously Savannah was going to be there to promote their upcoming fight. I thought, it sold okay. You know, her kind of slating her, saying that she's a boring fighter, doesn't knock people out. So it wasn't too bad. And interesting to see, you know, what's a bigger fight, you know, in your opinion, is, you know, Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields bigger than Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, because they keep promoting that as obviously, you know, the biggest fight in women's boxing history. Is Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall a better fight? What do you think?
I mean, Savannah Marshall beat her in
amateurs, yeah.
In the amateurs, right? So that's the only time they've ever fought, right? And Savannah Marshall beat her.
It's Clarissa Shields' only ever loss. I believe she retired the amateurs 77-1.
Was it? Oh man, that was her only loss. Holy crap!
Mm.
I mean, honestly, just are you still sticking with Savannah Marshall as beating her again?
Yeah,
you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Clarissa she's good, but her fights are just boring. They're just she's got no pop. So Savannah, I think does. And the only thing I did worry about is Savannah confident enough? But then seeing her kind of like getting in her face, I think she's grown in confidence, since turning professional.
Well, that was my concern. I was like, okay, I think on the big stage and in terms of attention turning pro, and since they've turned pro, I thought, okay, Shields has obviously got the more the confidence factor, and that's what I thought was the edge. I was like, okay, Marshall beat her in the amateurs, but when you get to the pros, it's a different ball game. And from a confidence standpoint, I thought, okay, Shields is, got the edge on that. I mean, I don't know. I think Shields beats her in the pros. I just think the amateurs we know people have said like, oh yeah, we found the amateurs, he beat him. But when you get to the pros, it's a whole different ball game. What does Mayweather say? What does Mayweather I think he said before, where he's like, oh, he's like, these fighters are the best fighters in the gym, but I'm the best fighter under the lights, and it's like, that's true. There's a difference there. So, I mean, hopefully it's an entertaining fight. I hope they go back and forth. I hope whoever wins, or even if they don't win, I hope there's some knockdowns. I hope it ends in a TKO or KO, because obviously we don't see that many in female boxing. But like you said, Savannah Marshall has some pop, and Shields hasn't really shown to have that pop that Savannah Marshall has.
Yeah, I believe that Savannah has the better pro style. She's got the more pop and stuff like that, where Kalisha's kind of still in the amateurs. She kind of throws a lot, and then doesn't really affect her opponents too much just because of her lack of power. Right. What do you think it says for the two of them that she's supposedly the GOAT, but she has to come to the UK for the fight?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, but yeah, it's her GOAT. That's just a nickname. There's not a lot of fighters that live up to it. Let's judge a fighter. My take, I think we've talked about this before, but let's make all these type of judgments of lifetime achievements in boxing like that after the career is officially over. Let's do that. It's a clever name, honestly. GOAT. It is a clever name. Greatest woman of all time. Like, it's a clever name. I remember when they started pushing it and she started using it. I was like, that's pretty clever. But you're right, though. Like, is she box office? Not really. It's hard to get ratings, even if you're a male fighter. It's hard. It's really hard.
In terms of accomplishment, why is Serrano not?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up surpassing all these other fighters like Shields, Marshall, in terms of being a draw and drawing a rating and people tuning in to see her. With Jake Paul, obviously her stock has risen. She's
what, eight weight world champion, right?
Something like that. Having Jake Paul there, the reach that he not only has, obviously the boxing reach now, but he has a celebrity reach, with younger fans, with older fans, with casual fans. Like, he has a mainstream reach. Did you see all the press that they were doing? Did you see all the press that they were doing? Like, all everywhere. He was everywhere. She was everywhere too, and he brought her along, or she went by herself. But I wouldn't be surprised, man. Like, she struck gold. She struck gold with that partnership that she's with him.
7-figure payday.
Yeah, she struck gold, and if she keeps winning, it's only going to be better for her. It's only going to be better for her. So, and I'm sure there's other fighters or even female fighters looking, hey man, we should talk to Jake Paul. This guy's actually serious. He's actually doing stuff in the game, and he is. So I don't know. But moving on. Also this past weekend, my fight of the weekend from the Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona on the Zone. I think we were at that fight for at that arena for Chavez and Daniel Jacobs a couple years ago. Excuse me. Moving up in weight, Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez gets his first world title, moving up 2 weight classes as he defeats Carlos Cuadras in a 12-hour unanimous decision win for the vacant WBC super flyweight title. Obviously us living over here in Southern California and being hardcore boxing fans, we've heard about Bam Bam Rodriguez. And, people have said that he's the real deal. We've heard information from, statements and interviews from Garcia Boxing Gym, people coming out of there, like, Pita Garcia, Robert Garcia, saying that this kid's the real deal. I mean, how much more real deal could you get after a win like that? Moving up 2 weight classes and getting your first world title, he substituted in. I mean, how much more impressive could you get?
No, outstanding performance. And Jerry just touched on in his section in the interview that you got to listen to, stay ready. He took the fight at a week's notice because of some resize falling sick. He steps in, takes the WBC super flyweight title with both hands. Unbelievable performance, dominated him from start to finish. That knockdown with the little slide and the little uppercut, outstanding. You've probably seen it all over Twitter and all over Instagram. It was that good. And I think Eddie Hearn might be right. With Bam Bam going in against all these other champions and all these big names, he might actually go in his favorite against some of them. He's just so explosive, so young, so quick. Just got his chance and he took it with both hands. Great performance of the weekend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the kid, he delivered, man, and he's young. I think he's right now the youngest world champion in boxing, I believe.
Yep. So they said, at 22 years old.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey man, I know it's like the younger weight classes, but he went up against a guy, Carlos Cuadras, who's been tested and he's a veteran, and he's still got, a lot left in the gas tank. But yeah, man, the kid, he's for real. Now I'm just interested to see if he stays at the weight class or does he just vacate it and go back down, and it's like, man, imagine if he vacates and just goes back down and he's like, oh, okay, well, I did it. I'm going back down to get a title over there. It's just like, man, who's going to want to fight you now at that weight class when you just went up 2 weight classes and beat a guy who was former world champion,
There's some names, though, in and around those divisions, depending if he wants to go back down, if he wants to stay there, if he wants to move up eventually, when he gets older and starts to fill out a little bit. There's some names. And we've touched on before on when me and Corey were on here, Corey Erdman, who filled in for you, those lighter weight classes from being, guys that didn't get paid, they were neglected, even though they had skills, DAZN, and obviously thanks to Tom Loeffler, who probably started this, it's some of the best boxing around. And I think more and more people, not just us nerdy hardcore fans, some of the casuals, as they say, starting to notice it now.
No, yeah, big time. So, I mean, we'll see how he does going forward, but he's definitely got a bright career. And he's really showing the confidence that he has, especially showing all these other fighters who are young, like a Ryan Garcia or something like that, who's not a world champion, maybe on social media, but Bam Bam Rodriguez, your new WBC super flyweight top champion. Let's see if he sticks with it going forward. Also, this past weekend from the Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas on Fox pay-per-view, Keith Thurman gets a 12-round unanimous decision win in his return against Mario Barrios, who is now 0-2 in his last 2 fights against Tank Davis and now Keith Thurman. I mean, I know people gave Barrios a chance, and he got some decent shots in there. From what I saw, it looks like he hurt Thurman with a body shot at one point or another. But I know Keith Thurman's been out of the ring for a while, but I've never counted the guy out. And I think I picked him. Well, I wasn't obviously on the show last week, but I didn't know the confidence. I didn't know the confidence that people were putting in Mario Barrios. I didn't see it. Was I wrong not to see it? Should I have seen it? What am I doing here?
No, I thought Thurman was done. just over the last couple of years, he didn't, not fighting as much, not looking like as in shape. I think it seemed like he had, got his money, got married, didn't he? And then he was just kind of like, traveling the world. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I probably would have done the same. But it looked like the boxing had kind of taken, like a back step for him. But he came in, and I thought Barrios is maybe too young, too big, too strong. I thought he might be a bit of a brawler and, would put the pressure on Thurman, and Thurman would maybe wilt just because, not putting those extra miles in and stuff like that, kind of living that bit of a safety life. But yeah, I mean, I was wrong. Barrios didn't. I thought he was coming in and trying to dominate him. I don't know whether that loss to Davis took a little bit of something out of him, like a little bit of confidence maybe. But I thought he was going to come in and, kind of like move him around the ring because he's like a big, strong guy, like kind of put it on him a little bit more. Yeah, but a bit of a lackluster performance, I thought, from him. I still like to watch him though. I think Barrios is a good TV fighter.
Yeah, he is. He could work out. They're going to keep using him, but being 0-2 in your last two fights, I know you fought, but like it'd be different if you were 0-2 against two welterweights like a Thurman and a Porter or something like that. But you're 0-2 against a lightweight and a welterweight, two weight class. Like, I mean, that's pretty much. I know you fought. They fought at 140, but like, think about it like that. But
yeah, I think he's still going to be there. I think he'll be like a kind of like a Rosado. Is that harsh?
No, yeah, maybe. I don't
know. Not as many defeats, but he'll have that like gatekeeper status.
Maybe, but Rosado's like a rare breed, though.
He's a legend.
Yeah,
love that guy.
A rare breed, so it would take a lot for Barrios to get to that level, which is saying a lot because it's saying a lot. But we'll see. I think Thurman gets Spence before Crawford does. Honestly, yeah. If Spence beats Ugas, or if Ugas beats Spence, vice versa, I think Thurman gets the winner before Crawford gets an undisputed title fight.
I was thinking about it today because we were texting about this, weren't we? About how PBC hold all the power. They can literally just say to Crawford, "You want to come back? You have to come here. We're going to pay you what we want. Yeah, like we can just block you out. Yeah, like you want 6 million, you can take 2."
Yeah, Crawford should just. I mean, like I know he doesn't want to lie down, and now that he's made all this money, and I understand that, but he wants those fights. He left Top Rank, and he's suing his former promoter because he couldn't get those fights. And it's like, okay, well, you were mad because your Bob Arum, your former promoter, was saying that they were losing money on you, and you make too much money, and you don't draw in the rating. Well, now Eddie Hearn, who didn't promote you before, is pretty much echoing the same sentiment. So, like, he's good. He's a great fighter. Like if they're offering him like 100,000, obviously that's ridiculous. But with the talent he has, he should be like, okay, cool. Pay me. He's like Lomachenko. Lomachenko's kind of like that, where he's just like he still gets paid, but he's just like, yeah, whatever, just make the fight. Yeah. I'm gonna show you that I got it. And I feel like if PBC does that to him, like. He has all the talent in the world to go in there, but like, okay, pay me instead of 6 million, you're gonna pay me 3 million. Okay, fine. I'm coming in and I'm gonna beat all your guys, and I'm beat Spence. I'm gonna become the undisputed champion, and then I'm gonna hold all the power. He has the talent to do that. And imagine if he does that, it's like a one-fight deal, and they're like, oh damn, we lost all the titles. And Crawford's a free agent holding all these titles like Canelo Alvarez. Imagine that power. But we'll see. We will see. Also on the card, Luis Nery gets a split decision win over Carlos Castro. This was for the vacant WBC silver super bantamweight title. Didn't Nery almost not make weight for this fight?
Yeah, that's what the reports were. Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. Well, Luis Nery fight weekend, right? His hardest struggles always with the scales.
Exactly. Rounding off that card, Leo Santa Cruz returns and gets the 10-round unanimous decision win over Keenan Carbajal. So he returns after his knockout loss against Tank Davis. Fight previews this upcoming Saturday, the 12th of February, from the Alexandra Palace in London on DAZN. Daniel Jacobs returns as he goes up against John Ryder. What do you think about this matchup?
Strange matchup, really. Like, it's a good matchup for John Ryder, but for Jacobs, like, at his stage of his career and all the rumors you hear about him, you think that he'd just be trying to chase the big money fights. It seems like that's all he's about.
I'm sure he's still getting paid, you know? Yeah.
He's lucky to be where he is because me and you said that he was losing to Chavez when Chavez quit. Yeah. He lost to Gabe Rosado, but got the scorecards. And then now he's in there with John Ryder. I honestly think that just from what you hear about him in the gyms and stuff like that, like he's just chasing money. And then,
dude, that Canelo payday was life changing.
12 million or something that he got. Like,
I mean, like who else has made that money recently against Canelo? Honestly,
yeah.
Nobody's gonna come close to that.
No,
you know, like, and Jacobs is still advised by Al Heyman. He's like promoted by Eddie Hearn, but Al Heyman is still involved.
He's completely living off that Triple G fight, isn't he?
Yeah.
Where he just sat there and looked at him and went, whacked himself.
It's worked out.
Yeah.
You know, he fought Triple G. He got Canelo. He's fought the two biggest moneymakers essentially in the last 5 years.
Yeah. So, good on him.
He did it. Yeah. And it's not like he wasn't a good fighter. Like he was a good fighter. It wasn't like, you know, he just slid his way in there. Like he has talent.
Broke the game.
Yeah, he did. He figured it out. But yeah, I think it's an interesting matchup. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ryder pulls it off here. We'll see. Also on the card, Felix Cash, 14-0, goes up against Magomed Madiev. Hopefully I pronounced that right. 15-0-2. This is for the vacant WBC International Middleweight title. And then also rounding off that card, Ellie Scottney. I hope I said that right. 3-0 goes up against Georgelina. I don't even know how you say that. Guawani. Is this like Italian or something? This is for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Super Bantamweight title. Man, these freaking alphabet soup titles are all over the place. News and notes: Ryan Garcia, I guess, returns. Your favorite fighter, Mike, against Emmanuel Tago, and they're going to schedule to meet on April 9th at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio on DAZN. All the social media smack talk that all these lightweights have been talking, and Garcia saying this and that he wants Isaac Cruz and calling out all these fighters and Cambosis, and he ends up going with Emmanuel Tago. So we'll see. Maybe Tago. It's not like Tago's like, he's not a good fighter. You could pull it off. You never know.
Even you subconsciously said Ryan Garcia is scheduled to meet Emmanuel Tago, not Ryan Garcia will meet, because we don't know. Will Ryan be there?
I purposely said scheduled. I purposely said that because it's true. We don't know.
No,
we don't know. It was announced officially, but let's see what happens. But he does pop a rating. DAZN knows that. So,
I mean, the Aladome's almost at 50, 60,000. It's big.
It's big. But I mean, I don't think they're gonna come anywhere near that. I really don't. But I mean, that might have been the only one available in that general area, and maybe certain LA arenas weren't available. I don't know.
Interesting to see what kind of, because all you ever hear, obviously, is his Instagram following, his social media following. So it'll be interesting to see how much of that he sells out. Yeah,
that's true. That is true. And then also this week, Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas, as we mentioned earlier, welterweight matchup has been announced for April 16th at the AT&T Stadium, where the Dallas Cowboys play in Texas. As of this recording, I don't believe a broadcast partner was announced. The poster that I saw didn't have either Showtime or Fox on there. Whoever it is, it's most likely going to be a pay-per-view fight. I've been seeing like reports and some information saying that Showtime is making a bid. So that's why they haven't announced a broadcast partner. But where do you think it lands if you had to put your money on it? I think Fox still gets it.
You think Fox does?
I think
really?
Fox gets it. Yeah, because Showtime, like they're obviously. I mean, they'll put on the pay-per-view, but isn't Fox owned by Disney?
Yeah, maybe Fox, and then because it seems to be they have Gervonta Davis always shows up on Showtime. Spence seems to be more of a Fox fighter, if memory serves me right.
That's what I think. I think Fox wants the glamour division of welterweight right now, so they're just like, okay, well, you have Tank Davis on Showtime, but we're not going to let go of Spence and Thurman and all those guys, you know?
It's going to be interesting because we were texting about earlier, Spence and Ugas, that's 3 of the 4. If Spence wins or if Ugas wins, are they going to want to go for the undisputed? That's all you hear about now. Teofimo Lopez always reps it, Josh
so.
Taylor.
I hope so. But like I mentioned earlier, I think Thurman gets a shot before Crawford. Unless, I think that's just Al Heyman and PBC's way to stick it.
No, you see Eddie Hearn, you see Bob, from Top Rank, Bob Arum. Do you think Al Heyman would listen to a fighter if a fighter put his foot down and said, I want Crawford? I think Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum probably would, because they always talk about Eddie Hearn always says about how he works for the fighter.
I'm sure he does, but like you obviously have to be more powerful. Like somebody like Spence, if Spence said it, yeah. But Spence has even though Spence and Crawford haven't fought, Spence has fought the better competition the last couple of years. Even after his car accident, Errol Spence still came back and fought. Has been fighting the top guys at 147 pounds. Even though people would have been like, "Oh, you deserve a softer touch," he went in and still fought the bigger guys. And he's been winning after almost a life-ending car crash, and then his eye and all that stuff. So I don't know, man. I don't know, but yeah, I think somebody like Spence or somebody with that power, that pull, would be able to say to Al Heyman, like, "Hey, no, I don't want to fight this guy. I want to fight Crawford." But his career's been navigated good, and he's fought the highest competition in the welterweight division, not named Crawford. He has.
If Ugas wins, could he tell Al Heyman he wants to fight Crawford?
Yes, he could be undisputed, but I'm sure. If Ugas wins, I think there's definitely going to be a Thurman fight for sure. Sure. If Spence wins, it's more likely a Crawford fight, but I still think Thurman gets a shot before Crawford. I don't know why. I really do. But we'll see. We'll see how the months develop ahead. But obviously, this is a time where we're going to shoot to our interview. Boxing manager and obviously co-owner of the First to Fight Management Company, alongside former world champion and former Marine Jamel Herring. Jerry Casarez joined us this week as our guest of the week here on The Last Round. He manages quite a few people: Jamel Herring, Sinisa Estrada. They just signed Ryan Blue Chip Martin. And he talks about all these fighters and, fighter contracts, agreements, how negotiations are done, what they look at in a fighter. He was very interesting conversation. He's a good guy. We've seen him at fights before, and he's an awesome guy to talk to, right?
Yeah, very good. It's a long interview. He talks really well. Anybody that's listening that wants to start out in journalism, that's what he did. Ended up, being a fight manager. And he also gives people, us tips on, how to network, how to leave a lasting impression, in only like a 10, 15 second conversation with someone. Yeah.
And the one that I really enjoyed was when he talked about Kobe Bryant, how he had Kobe Bryant at LA Live for like 30 seconds and he kind of pitched him an idea and he ended up working with him after that. So that was a really cool story that you guys will hear in a minute. But once again, thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Last Round. We'll obviously see you guys next week. And here is our interview of the week with boxing manager Jerry Casarez.
And now it's time for the last round interview of the
week. Boxing manager and agent Jerry Casarez, who manages former world champion Jamel Herring and two-weight world champion Sinisa Estrada, joins the last round this week. Thank you very much for joining us, Jerry.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
We were just talking about, just before we started recording here, how we haven't actually seen you in person in a while, so it's nice to see you and talk to you again, man.
Thank you. Likewise. It's just been the world, right? The world, just the way that everything's happened. I was just telling a friend of mine that it's nice to be able to go ahead and invite people back to the fights and, just see everybody, trying to go ahead and, just get things back to as normal as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what everybody's looking forward to. So for people who might not be aware of you, because obviously you're kind of like a behind the scenes guy, I think you would agree, your stars for any boxing manager are obviously the fighters. They're the ones on TV, putting their lives on the line and stuff like that. So you're the behind the scenes guy in a sense. So for people who might not be aware of who you are, can you tell us how your career started in boxing and how did you get to where you are today?
Sure. I mean, just my love of boxing started because my father was a professional fighter, fought in the 20s and early 30s, and that's 1920s and 1930s. And when I was a kid, in the 80s, I grew up watching the fights with him. The Marvin Haglers, the Ray Leonards, Tommy Hearns, the Roberto Durans, and I knew I loved boxing. I just didn't know what my connection to it was at the time, because like any parent, they didn't want me to get into boxing. And they wanted me to go ahead and go to school and stick to that, but I wanted to fight, and I eventually found the gym, and I loved the sport, and I boxed for a long time, from the time I was a kid till like young adult, maybe about 21, 22, and I just realized at that point I started having some injuries that required surgery, and it took me out a year. So I was kind of like, at that point I was like, I want something to do with the sport still. I just don't know in what capacity. So I was going ahead and doing media work for some friends of mine that used to own a site, Max Boxing. And that's Doug Fisher, Steve Kim, Tom Gervais, Gary Randall. And, because I knew so many of the fighters that, I was interviewing and things like that, it just made it easy to talk to them, because those are guys that were in my age bracket. So I had, I could get the Zab Judas, the Floyd Mayweathers. I could talk to them because they're guys I was, familiar with, Shane Mosley, all those guys. So, that just, at that era, at that point, I was also being given a chance by friends of mine that were fighters that were like, their camps needed help. So I was running, doing things with Mighty Mike Achando, former world champion. I was helping him out. I was also going ahead and helping a lot of other fighters that at the time were fighting on, developing their careers. So I was helping them, just get licensed and go through the process of like building up the records. And then, I also worked with Julian Ramirez. Julian's a friend of mine, and I worked with him at the time. And right around that time, in the, I was, that's when around the time that, I met Sinisa, and I already knew Jamel because I had known Jamel since the amateurs. Well, when he was vying to be an Olympian. So, we just, that was kind of like the beginning of it when I said, I'm going to do this on my own. I want to go ahead and, I know the formula to helping fighters. And I'd worked with world champions before, like Cachando, and I had also worked with Margarito and his team, and I learned a lot from them. That was a good run that they were on. From his welterweight title days, and it was just I knew I could help a lot of fighters, because the thing with boxing is that there's a lot of people in line to try to go ahead and make $1 off the fighter, but the line is even shorter for people trying to actually help the fighters. Everybody's like, boxing is like any other sport or business. It's just what can I what can you do for me type of thing. And I because I was a fighter, and because my father was a fighter, I felt like I was better suited to go ahead and help people, and that just kind of took a a run of itself, and yeah, that's how we are to where we are now. I mean, Jamal and I have had a lot of success together, from his PBC days, where a lot of people thought his career was over. We kind of like brought him back, and along the way he won a world title. Jamal and I formed a company called First to Fight Management. We've had successful partnerships with other management companies too. We work with a lot of people. We work with Sheer Sports also. We do some co-managing with them on certain fighters, and then I've also worked with companies like MTK. I work with all the promoters because I don't really get into that whole like this side of the street, that side of the street. I think like with you have a good relationship with all the promoters, you can find opportunity. And I'm happy to say that, you know, I've been able to have fighters fight for Top Rank, the PBC, Golden Boy, you know, Matchroom. You know, you just have to learn that this is a relationship business. So, you know, you can go ahead and get further. You get more bees with honey, you know?
Right.
Joe, you actually have a journalism degree, right?
Correct. Yeah. I have a background in journalism and marketing, and went to business school. And you know, I liked telling. My favorite part of journalism was writing feature stories, because I like telling the story of the fighter. You know, the fighters I thought had really interesting backgrounds, and it was just like different from a lot of other athletes. And I felt that, you know, because I was a fighter myself, I understood better how to go ahead and how I wanted to tell their story, and you know, it made it easy to connect with the fighters, and to go ahead and be able to you know, really get to know them, and then kind of figure out along the way who I wanted to work with, and who was a good fit for me, you know, to be able to help out.
Joey, was it quite an easy transition into management because of the fact that you'd already networked and you already knew everybody? They knew you were a stand-up guy?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I go ahead and my career in journalism, I did it backwards, because I worked for so many different outlets, and did so much work that got good exposure, that I did that first before I kind of was learning on the job, and just learning from people around me that had been doing it for a long time. And then I went to school for it, you know, and just along the way, you know, you build all those contacts and relationships, whether it's promoters, other managers, trainers, cutmen, you know, just different people in the business, PR people, and that building those relationships really, really helped me, because, you know, funny story is like, look, I've known Robert Diaz since probably his days with Barrera. So that's probably more than 20 years. And, you know, Robert, I remember us interviewing Barrera and doing things, and Robert being there because he would translate. And, you know, fast forward to when I started working with Sinisa, and we needed an opportunity for her, you know, I was quick to you know, lean on my contacts and make a call to Robert, and say, hey, Robert, you know, look, can we give her an opportunity? I actually still have that email, the first email I sent him, telling him about her. So it's just kind of cool to see how that blossomed, and they ended up signing her, and you know, now she's a world champion, and doing great things.
Joey, for people that are listening, and also maybe for me and Danny, when you go to these boxing events and you meet someone like Robert Diaz and Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn, and you want to network them, obviously you only get a small period of time. They're busy people. They probably meet God knows how many people at one event. What did you do to stand out?
You know, I just learned that, like, just consistency. I mean, look, with all these people, it's no different. I'm glad you said that. I mean, because here's an example of just how getting a person's time and making the most of it. The late great Kobe Bryant used to sponsor Jamel and his company Body Armor. And the way that I ran into Kobe, they had the All-Star game out here in Los Angeles, and it was a All-Star weekend. And I ran into Kobe, you know, at LA Live. Everybody was walking over to the Staples Center, and I had literally like 30 seconds to a minute to say something meaningful to get his attention. And I knew that Kobe was into boxing and Kobe was into fighting. And you know, I just started talking, and he listened and enough to stop and want to have a further conversation. So that was cool, because that opened up the door to where, you know, he was someone we were talking to, and I had a lot of great respect for him and admiration, and he was willing to go ahead and talk to us and say, okay, what can we do? And he said, you know, he was cool enough to send us product and work with us for Jamel. And, you know, this was before he was a world champion. He had just signed with Top Rank. So it was cool to have, you know, make the most of that opportunity. And that little segment there is something that I do with a lot of people. You know, you meet people the position of power or influence, and you just you just gotta go ahead and make the most of that time. Say something, just the way you carry yourself, just building relationships and building contacts and just being consistent with those people. Like a lot of people run into someone and they won't talk to them or keep in touch with them, and unless they see them again. And just social media makes it easier to keep in touch with people, but it's a real, this is a people business, this is a relationship business, boxing. And I believe in like maintaining relationships and just building those friendships into where you can actually even in a work environment, you can go ahead and use those things to your benefit and obviously to the benefit of the fighters.
You work with boxers and MMA fighters. Have you ever met Dana White?
Yeah. Dana follows me on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah. I've been around Dana a lot. We're actually doing some cool stuff that we're working on right now that hopefully, we'll be able to go ahead and talk more about later this year. But I have guys that work with me that manage a pretty good roster of UFC fighters, and I myself have managed, advised fighters before for the UFC, and I have relationships over there with the UFC PR staff. I've done things with them for Latin media and different markets like LA and their fighters, and it's just great. Like I just the same thing there. I have some fond memories of the people at the UFC and just like the staff, and a lot of that was also my relationship with Tom Grabasi. Tom Grabasi is their editor for the UFC, and Tom has always been a great friend. And from my time at Max Boxing and other websites that I wrote for, and it's just it was his. He introduced me to Lorenzo and Fertitta and all the guys over there, and it's just like it's great to be able to have friends like that they respect you enough to want to open doors for you.
Jerry, kind of rewinding a little bit, you talked about meeting Kobe Bryant, how you just kind of had 30, 45 seconds or whatever to kind of talk to him and get his attention. After that period, that 30 or 45 seconds, obviously when he stopped and then he left and you go your way, he goes his way. Did you think after that was over, like, hey, you know what? He's such a busy guy. I don't think he's going to actually follow up with me. Or did you follow up with him? Or
I knew I got him because he was with someone and we exchanged contact information. And wow. I had a contact for him. And so I was like, oh, it's going down. This is going to happen. And, since then, obviously his brand's grown so big. It's they have a distributorship now with Coca-Cola, and then they sponsor the UFC. We're still talking to them, and there's opportunities there that we're working on for the future. And it's just like, it's just great, man. It was. I knew that I had to go ahead and talk to him, and right away I knew he was a martial arts, fan, and he was a big fan of Bruce Lee and fighting and just the philosophies also, because he was a really philosophical guy. And I'm a huge martial arts guy also, and I grew up in the martial arts also outside of boxing, and when I started talking to him about Jeet Kune Do and the way of the intercepting fist, and he looked at me like, what do you know about that? And we started talking, and I piqued his interest, and it was just like, great, now I got his ear. I just introduced myself, tell him what I do. I work with fighters, and I said, look, man, the fighters that I work with, they're different, they're special, and look, I'd love to go ahead and get you on board if we can do a sponsorship. And he was like, yeah, Gary, get this information, give him a card, have him call us, and he send us over proposal and an email, and man, the rest is history, man. Like, it's just cool, man. It's just things like that where you meet people and you have to just you have to rise to the occasion, because you got to go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity, because you may not get it again.
What did Jamel Herring say when you told them, like, hey, I got Kobe Bryant's contact info.
Well,
I think we got something.
He was in camp. I think he was in camp in Colorado Springs because he was already working with Bomac. So that relationship had already started. So I told Jamal, hey man, I'm going to send you some cases out there of like some body armor, and he liked the product because it was just low on sugar and good for recovery. His nutritionist had approved of it. They said, yeah, we like it. It's good stuff. Send it. And I sent them like all these cases, and then everybody was asking like, yo, who's sending you this stuff? It was like Kobe's company. Kobe and them are sending me this, and he's just like, they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, man, JC's talking to Kobe and these guys about going ahead and sponsoring me. And it was wild because when Kobe passed away, up until that point, we were still maintaining that relationship, and they were, checking in on us and seeing how Jamel was doing and stuff, and his progress as a fighter and as a champion. So it was just it was real organic, and just the fact that they gave us the time of day, and obviously that it was an opportunity there.
Did Jamel ever get to speak to Kobe, or were you the only one that was able to talk to him that one time?
Yeah, because I'm on the West Coast, so I'm out here in LA. So I my partner, one of the guys I work with, Julian, he does a lot of things with them, and he had he has guys like Bryant and stuff like that he works with, and for the UFC. So he's always in contact with them. He has a really good relationship. But Jamel, he was in the loop. He knew what was going on. As a matter of fact, I was actually on the phone with Jamel the morning that Kobe passed, and I found out we were talking. It was just our normal, he's in camp, Sunday conversation type of thing, like, hey, this and that. And then when that hit, like, I saw it on my ticker tape on the TV in the morning. And yeah, it was pretty emotional to call because, like, man, I'm a Laker fan. I love Kobe. My name's Jerry. I'm named after Jerry West, the logo of the NBA, a great Laker. And it was just like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I was telling Jamel, and Jamel, like, a lot of people, the world loves Kobe. I know Sinisa loves Kobe. And it was just, I was trying to go ahead and do something where, because, I wanted her to go ahead and like, be able to meet him and stuff. And we're trying to find like opportunities to do things. But, so it was just wild. Surreal to think that he's really not here anymore,
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. He was only, early 40s, or I don't even know if he was 40. I think he was in his early 40s, but, obviously too young to go. You talked about Antonio Margarito, how you had worked with him in the past. How was that?
Good, man. I loved his management. His management was a gentleman named Sergio Diaz. Sergio, still a friend. I haven't talked to him in a while because of the pandemic and stuff like that. But Sergio Diaz was a smart businessman. His family owned Los Siete Mares. For anybody that's out here on the West Coast, it's a chain of seafood restaurants. And he was also on top of them, like, having their own restaurants. He was also an importer of seafoods for other restaurants and places that needed products. So if you watch a lot of like the foreign boxing from the 80s, 90s, there's a lot of fighters that you'd see that would have the Siete Mares on their trunks, the logo. And that was the connection to Sergio Diaz. And I met Sergio Diaz through some mutual friends, and Sergio was just a gentleman, a cool dude. He managed Margarito along with his friend Francisco Espinosa, and not Frank Espinosa, but Francisco, another gentleman. And they used to have Soto Caraz. They had a few other fighters, and that Hugo Casarez, the former flyweight champion. So they had a lot of good fighters, and I liked working with him. He let me help out with training camps when they would get a fight, getting them sparring partners and reaching out to people, making agreements so that Margarito would have the people he needed to be able to go ahead and do his job at his best. And it was just interesting, man. You gotta be willing to pick up the phone and call people and tell them, there was no, like, social media wasn't like it is now. So now people can DM you and say, hey man, this and that, okay, great. Back then it was like more calling people and, hey, you got to believe who I am. And I'm telling you, like, we want to bring you out here for a camp. We're willing to pay you this once you negotiate with them. And then you got to book plane tickets and do all that stuff. And it was just, it was an interesting experience. And just, it was kind of cool seeing Margarito's rise to fame from like the Shotgun Gomez fights to, to Miguel Cotto, the first fight, that was an amazing win for him. And just really cemented him as a like a legitimate, force in the welterweight division. So that was around like I think that might have been like the last fight that I really worked with them was the Cotto fight. Because
the second one or the first one?
The first one. Yeah, because after that they were really pressuring him to take the Shane Mosley fight, and Shane Mosley is a guy that if Shane was would have went ahead and like played it safe, he would have held on to his belt longer. But Shane was kind of like a fight fan's fighter, like where he was stubborn. He wanted to fight these guys who were all bad for him, like he wanted to fight Brendan Forrest that had previously beaten him in the amateurs. He wanted to fight Winky Wright that was all bad for him style wise. He just and he even passed on the De La Hoya, rematch, to do that. And it's just like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? But it just goes to show you, man, like that the type of fighter he was. But Shane was not shot, and people were saying that, and I think at the time Margarito he was a clean liver. He didn't smoke or drink that I saw. I think he lived a pretty healthy lifestyle, but it was coming off a big win. I think it was like the winter months, and you go home to Mexico. It's easy at the fiestas and everything around Christmas time to put on some weight, and I think that's what it really was. He put on a lot of weight, and I remember the conversations we used to have about the Mosley fight, and I said, look, if it's in March or April, that's better. But HBO and the money, they were pushing for it to be, I think it was like late January, first week of February. And that camp became a fat camp, And if anyone that remembers the weigh-in for the Mosley fight, Margarito stripped down naked. I think he missed weight the first time, and then he stripped down naked. And he just looked like a shell of himself. He was depleted. And Margarito's biggest asset as a fighter was that he was a physical, tough guy that can, like, had a gas tank and could go and would wear you down and break you down. And in that fight, he just looked fragile. Shane jumped all over him. I think he understood. And he jumped all over him early, and he just dug himself enough of a big hole that he wasn't going to get out of it that night. So, but it was, look, it was a great experience, and just, working with them. And then Sergio was always cool, man. I've over the years, like people that I've built relationships with, I've asked them and leaned on them and asked them questions, when I was working with a fighter or another fighter's situation. And, they were always, because of our relationships, they were always open to give me good advice, hey, you can do this, or you can do this, like just, and that, that's priceless, man, because you get a lot of managers out here that they're green in the business. And then, how are you you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't have, a good experienced lawyer in this business, if you don't have a good mentor and people around you, that you can go ahead and bounce your ideas off of, and you don't have the relationships, you can have all the money in the world. You're not going to last long in this business. It's just, you're going to spin your wheels, and you're not going to get the fighter to where they want to get. So it's a disservice to them, and then to yourself, because this is a hurt business, and you got to be able to maneuver the fighters wisely, because like you said, they're the ones that are putting their careers and their health on the line.
Jerry, what's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Man, just patience, patience, because anytime that you get anxious and stuff like that, you can rush a deal, or you can but you don't look things over carefully, and what happens is that you can either leave money on the table, or you can put yourself in a situation for the fighter that probably isn't the most optimal, and it's just better to go ahead and be patient and just know that look, you're better served that way, and you'll get more out of it in the long run. And yeah, man, that's been great advice and something that I've always remembered along the way, especially when we're negotiating fights or when a certain thing is presented and you're kind of thinking like, oh, okay, I don't know about this or that. You just got to be patient, and things always work themselves out. You just gotta. It's like a poker game, you got to play your cards close to chest and just not not come off as you're desperate or that you're anxious.
Jerry, what's the most interesting thing that you've seen in a fight negotiation or a contract negotiation? Obviously, it comes down to money for a lot of these fighters, especially the bigger you are, in the sport. But sometimes there's little details in fight contracts or fight agreements that might catch you off guard. What catches you off guard like that?
I'm glad you said that. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but as part of journalism school, you do have to take certain electives, and I took you do take law classes in journalism, and you also go ahead and take like when I took that spiked my interest because I was like, oh, okay, cool, I want to learn more, and I actually took a class on contract reading and learning and understanding, because if you're ever going to write, if you're getting into like owning the rights on books and things like that, you want to be able to understand what you're reading as far as agreements with publishers or things like that, right? So that served me well because when I can read a fight contract and I can go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes of it pretty well and understand what I'm working with. And that's a feather in my cap. But a lot of managers just can't do that. They don't have the ability. They look at the contract and they think, oh, I know where this part is or this part is and this part, but I don't think they really understand the language. I don't think they're too well versed in understanding the language, because look, if you just look at the meat and potatoes of it and you don't look at all the fine print, everything is in the details, right? It lies in the details. So that's where people get you. And, it's interesting. That's something I've learned. But also we have, we have great attorneys at our disposal. I have, great attorneys like Patty English and that's done stuff for us. And also, my partner, and a mentor to me, Gary Gittleson, he works with me, and Gary's one of the best in the business. And, you're not going to go ahead and, you're not going to pull over it, pull the wool over our eyes, and I think because of that, we've been able to go ahead and avoid, disastrous things in contracts. Everybody's went ahead and understood that, that we're not to go ahead and be fooled there. But it's interesting, you find situations I've had to like, even in not working with a fighter, but like when you're trying to, I've read a lot of contracts for fighters that, hey, I'm not happy with my situation, or hey, this and that, and you read over people's contracts and you're just like, man, what did you sign? You look at some of the stuff and you're like, what did you sign and who advised you? But that's just those are lessons learned, and unfortunately, the fighters a lot of times they're just trying to get in the position where they just want to get in the sport and be great and do what they do right, but in the process they don't really have a chance to have themselves looked out for, as far as like, is my contract good? Did I sign the right thing? Am I making a good choice? Those are things that they are not really privy to unless they have good people around them. So, that's something that I pride myself on. With Jamel, and he said any of our fighters like that I've worked with over the years, I try to teach them in the moment, like, hey, look, the reason that I asked for this, or the reason that we're doing this is because of this and this, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's a teachable moment, and they're able to learn something from it, because like Jamel is my partner. He's an active fighter, but he's my partner in our management company. But then outside of that, I advise fighters like Sinisa on her own, and I work with her, and then there's other partnerships that I have where I, like you said, mentioned it, where I work with MMA fighters and things like that. And I've actually managed or advised fighters overseas, in different countries. And it's just, there's teachable moments there where you can go ahead and teach the fighter something about the business. And, not everyone wants to learn it, because some fighters are like, okay, cool, I trust you, do your part and I'll do my part. But there are some fighters that want to learn because, they're interested, because they never know what the future may lie, where they may want to come to the business side when their careers are done, and or just want to have knowledge of certain things, how they work.
Hey, what is it you look for when you sign a fighter?
Characters are very important to me. Characters, I've had a lot of fighters that were very successful amateurs, and a lot of wins and but the talent isn't alone. I need to work with people that I genuinely like. All of our fighters that I work with right now, I like them. They're my client, but they're also my friend. Because I like who they I like who they are as people, and they're honorable, and I think that goes a long way, because that'll tell you things are easy when everything's good, but the character of a person is going to go ahead and get them through a lot of tough moments in their career or in just in life, and just their character is going to go ahead and have them act accordingly when different situations present themselves in life. And like with a fighter, a lot of pitfalls that they have to avoid, because when a fighter gets successful, all of a sudden you have new friends that come around, you have a family that you haven't heard from in a long time that all of a sudden want to be connected. And it's just being smart about things, because you have to understand that there's never enough. You can help, of course everybody wants to help their family and stuff like that, but I always say empower people to help themselves, but because you can't completely carry someone the whole way, but if you can empower someone to help themselves, and then let them go ahead and go from there, so it's one of those things. But yeah, it's interesting. It's character that I look for, talent obviously, and then if they had a deep amateur career, if they had fought internationally, I want to see what they did there, because that tells a lot. Like Micaiah Krebs, she's an undefeated fighter we have. She's a bantamweight out of New York, and Micaiah, she was a bronze medalist in the World Championships, and we were following her and scouting her for a while. And when she won that, she placed and got the bronze medal against the Eastern Europeans and the Russians. I told Jamal, she's real. That girl's real. That girl got on a plane, went overseas, and to be able to come back with a bronze medal, versus all the Eastern Europeans that are notoriously tough and stylistic, a nightmare. I said that girl's got talent. That girl, it will be a world champion, and yeah, we're down where we're working with her, and she's undefeated. She's 2-0. I'm hoping that she fights in March, and then I think she has a TV date in May. So she's now working with Manny Robles. She's been trained by Manny Robles, and that girl's going to be a world champion within the next 12 months. She's that good. She's that good, and she has legitimate one-punch knockout power in both hands, and she's a beast, man. So it's those are the type of fighters I like working with, like her. We have another fighter, Misael Lopez. Misael was in a bad management situation. He got out of that, signed with us. Misael's based out of Denver. He's 12-1. Good fighter. He's fought on Showbox a few times. Has wins over some undefeated guys, some prospects, some other prospects that are out there. And Misael, God willing, he'll be on Showbox in March. And this is his year to make a run. He's going to be working now with Buddy McGurk. So he's going to be trained by Buddy. And that's another kid that I like working with, because just very, very humble, hardworking. suffered a defeat a year ago. A close fight on Showbox at a higher weight at 130. Now he's at 126. And, you know, it was a teachable moment for him. We knew that, okay, we took a risk against a guy that was a tough guy, but, you know, okay, we came up short, but, you know, the way he handled it said a lot about him and his character. And, you know, it makes it enjoyable to see him since then bounce back, get healthy. Just fought in January, coming off a win, and ready to go again in March. You know, so it's just he's sparred with Jamel before. He's been in camp with Jamel. You know, so just fighters like that. You know, and then there's other fighters like that we have that, like Michael Gamble. He just fought a week ago. Michael's a featherweight. He comes from Cincinnati, Ohio. There's a rich boxing tradition there, and Michael is a kid that Jamel had been known since he was a little kid, you know, or a teen. And Jamel told me, hey, there's a kid that we need to keep an eye on. And then when Jamel, you know, was starting to have a lot of success, and Jamel said, hey, listen, I think we should sign him. So I think, you know, we signed Michael, and Michael is right now, you know, 4-0, 3 knockouts, and he's well on his way, man. He's going to be a problem because that kid is special. You know, we just had to get him out of that environment in Cincinnati where, you know, there's a lot of gunplay, and we just saw what happened with Robert Easter out there. So, you know, I don't know, man. Something about the Natty, man. It's like you know, the streets, it's crazy. So Michael, I always tell him, and like, that's the other thing that, you know, my job isn't just to go ahead and put them in a position to win in boxing, because that's like, to get you a fight, anybody can do that. I pride myself on putting fighters in a position to where they have success in life. I want to see all of them own a house, own properties, do well in life, and just put themselves in a good position where, you know, they're not at risk and they're doing well. You know, they can live a comfortable life, and you know, that's important to me. And you know, that's the one thing that we talk about with Michael, because I always tell him, look, if you're in the gym, if you're in camp, I don't have to worry about you because you're in camp and you're working, so I can hurry up and get you fights on a back-to-back basis, and, you know, short notice, and keep you busy as you want to go. But if you're out of camp, then, you know, I don't know what you're doing, and you're hanging out or this and that, and it just makes it tough because the offers come in and I can't take advantage of them because, oh, what's your weight at, or are you in shape, or, you know, you haven't been in the gym, and just, you know, you got to stay in the gym, man. It's boxing is really a full-time, all year round sport. You stay in the gym, and especially if you're a young fighter that's trying to develop and build your record, my advice is stay in the gym. Stay in the gym, and good management will keep you busy. You know, the calls are there, the fights are out there. Just, you got to be in shape, so you make everyone's job easier if you're in the gym.
Billy, I've got 2 quick questions for you.
Sure.
The first one is, have you ever, you know, looked at a fighter and from the outside you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to sign this guy, and then you actually go and meet him, and then after meeting him, you've gone, nah, maybe not?
Yeah, and it's never because the fighter. Sometimes it's the parent or the person around them, and, you know, there's fighters that are out there signed by other promoters, and they're fairly successful, and I just passed, man. I just passed, and I was like, and then there's fighters that I looked at, and I told you, know, ooh, we dodged a bullet. I'm glad we passed on that one, because it's just like, it's just that extra. You know, a lot of times what happens is that people need to understand, you're signing the fighter, and the you know, your husband, your wife, your mother, your dad, you know, whoever. I know that they all have good intentions for you, but look, you know, let everybody needs to stay in their lane, and, you know, you need to allow the fighter to you need to allow us to do our job, and you know, I tell Jamal all the time, I don't pretend to be a trainer. You know, I know boxing, but I don't pretend to be a trainer. So, you know, people shouldn't pretend to be managers or anything that they're not. You know, because that's usually what makes me shy away from a fighter. If you have the and I know that there's parents that are like, oh, protective, like, and that's fine. We can work with them. Like, Micaiah has a great relationship with her mom. Like, her mom was her trainer. Her mom was an amateur fighter, and that's how Micaiah got into it. And they have a great relationship, and that's cool. But like, when we had those conversations about Micaiah working with Manny Robles, it wasn't an issue. Her mom understood, like, hey, you know what? This is the next step that is needed for me to be great, and my mom understands that, and that's cool. Same thing with Miciel. Miciel, his father was the one that used to train him, and then we recently had the conversation. Look, okay, to go to the next level, you need help, and what we need to do is we need to put you with Buddy Burger, and Buddy needs to help you out because Buddy's been there and done that, so he can take you to the next level, and you can get better sparring. And he understood that. He goes, you know what, you're right. And so did his dad. Me and his dad had a conversation about it the day after, with the when we're flying home after he lost his fight a year ago. And it was like, it wasn't a placing the blame thing. It was just like, what can we do to better the position? And that's what the parents or sibling or whoever it is around them, the significant other, has to understand that. And a lot of times, if they're very overbearing and it shows at the beginning when you're meeting with the fighter and trying to talk to them, then you kind of have to have a conversation with yourself and say, so it's something I want to deal with, like, in the long haul, like, or should I go ahead and cut my losses and just say, this fighter's not for me? And that's a tough decision, man, because if not, like, it just, you gotta ask yourself, where does this end? Because sometimes what happens too is like that people see the people kind of act weird, but when the fighter has success, then people's attitudes change, or, hey, this or that, or they feel more entitled because of their relationship with the fighter. And it's just like, hey, listen, I'm not only here to protect them inside the ring, I'm here to protect them outside the ring too. We have to make sure that they don't get jobbed in the process, because it's sad, man. You read about so many fighters that had successful careers, made a lot of money, and then ended up broke. And that's not, there's nothing funny about that. It's real sad to see a fighter that had a lot of success end up with a fraction of their money or none of it. So I pride myself on making good decisions for them. And just, I think when I can evaluate the situation and we talk about it, if the people around them are good, then great, we'll sign the fighter. And if the people around them are questionable, then, that kind of, you have to pay attention to those red flags, right? Like,
right.
So, yeah. And that's happened, man. There's, like I said, I'm not going to name fighters, but there are fighters out there that I said, oh man, or like even the stylish fighters that have come and said, hey man, I want you to help me, this, that. And you're like, okay, and then you got to kind of get to know them fast, and the fighter's cool, but like then somebody around them or whatever, and you're just kind of like, do I want to deal with this? Like, is this juice worth the squeeze? And if you say no, then you just kind of like say, you know what, maybe this fighter's not a fit for me, So it's interesting.
Terry, I know that obviously being a boxing manager is a 24/7 job. And I remember reading stories about, obviously I'm from England, big football fan, soccer fan, as you call it over here. That some of the, some athletes get too much too soon. And they were saying about how, like, some managers get called and that, the fighters or the players don't know how to change a light bulb because, they've always been looked after since a young age. I was wondering, do you have any, obviously you don't have to name names, but have you got any experiences of stuff like that?
I mean, like, I like, with my fighters, I mean, the thing I like about them is that they're kind of like, they do what they do. I mean, obviously each one of them kind of has a different background story, but like, for example, Jamel, of course he's a fighter, world champion, and all these things, but Olympian. But I mean, his background, he was a Marine, and he was an electrician in the Marine Corps. So, he's handy. He knows how to get away. I think he's handy with his hands. He knows how to go ahead and get around. But like, every fighter has like different things, and I kind of like, I don't mind like going ahead and doing extra things for them because, they need it. Like, I don't know. Like, for example, we just, Sanisa's getting ready for her fight. She's going to fight pretty soon, but she just went ahead and purchased a new house, and just, a lot of the things like, she's capable of doing a lot of things on her own. She'll be like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that in her house. And she can handle it, but just things that like sometimes she needs help with or whatever. Obviously she has her dad too and her brothers, but I don't ever mind going ahead and like doing certain things for them or explaining, hey, this is how you do things, because that's kind of like part of the job. It's part of the job of showing them things along the way of, and I guess that's just my life experience. It kind of lends itself because in the most cases, I mean, well, in all cases with them, I'm older than them, so I've had more life experiences than them, and I just try to go ahead and lend them that information, and not only that, but also other things so that they don't make the same mistakes.
Right.
Avoidable. If it's avoidable, by all means, And I even tell like some of my younger fighters, hey, like, listen, I warn them about hanging out and doing stuff like that, because I tell them that nothing good happens after midnight.
Exactly.
Nothing good happens after midnight, man. So don't let anybody fool you. So yeah, but stuff like that.
Right. Jerry, who's if you had to rank all these promoters or, other involved parties who you've negotiated with over the years for like, fighter agreements or fighter contracts or fight contracts, who's the most, and not difficult, like in a bad way, but like who's the most hard-headed in terms of like details, and you're just like, okay, I know I got to work hard for this contract because this promoter or this guy or this gal is
it's funny, like sometimes, well, so once upon a time a fighter just wants to get an opportunity, right? But then there does come a point in their career where when they do start having success, there are little amenities that you want to fight for, right? So hey, we need, business class tickets for the fighter, or we need this, or we need that, just different things that you want to ask for, just to make sure that they're comfortable, and I think I pride myself on none of our fighters are divas, not even like, obviously not Jamel, but none of the fighters are divas. They're all from, humble people, and but like I do try to go ahead and listen to them and ask them, hey, okay, we're at this point. What else do you need, to be able to go ahead and perform, at your best? Do you like, your minimum on your money per fight, the amenities, it could be something like extra per diems. And Jamel's even had to wear, like, he's a manager too, so he has to wear his manager's hat sometimes. We've been on, I'm trying to remember here. I think we were at a fight one time, and his cut man was working for him and was also working for Evan Holyfield, and so Jamel was like, his cut man was asking, hey, where's my per diem and stuff, because that's all stuff that's negotiated for the fight. And Jamel was like, you know what? Let me go and get it, because it might have been a situation where they, they might have given it to you under his name or maybe my name, because you're working both corners. So, but Jamel had to go in and figure that out with them. And I was like, hey, look, it's your fight week 2. Are you good? No. This, I got to take care of this, because I brought him on and stuff. So I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, it's just little things like that. I mean, I think all the promoters are for the most part are fair. When we go ahead and tell them, hey, listen, this is what we want. It's not, no one can ever accuse any of my fighters of being divas. That's never been a deal breaker. It's just, as long as they're treated well, and they're given what they need, we'll fight, man. We'll fight. I always go ahead and tell everyone, look, and he's all fight King Kong, and Jamel's the same way. He's on vacation right now. And this guy's already talking about, I can't wait to get in the ring. I'm like, dude, enjoy your vacation, bro. enjoy your time in Cabo. Like, you got plenty of time to think about the fights afterwards. But just like, they're not they're always ready and willing to fight anyone, So it's just like I just try to make them as comfortable as they can be, so that they're happy with what they're getting in their fight deal, and that they can go ahead and have what they need to succeed.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't want to throw. That's kind of political. I didn't want to throw any promoter under the bus or anything like that.
No, yeah. It's just interesting to know, like, who's the most hard headed, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, I've had like other fighters. Like, there's been with MMA fighters. I've had a couple of MMA fighters that, like, there's people around them, or the camp. Like, you'll have an extra assistant coach or someone that'll ask some crazy shit, man. And you're like, yo, listen, are you fighting or the fighter? Like, they'll ask for, like, I need a first class ticket. And you're like, chill out, man. Where, I forgot what slot on the card you are. Chill. Like, what the hell? But it's just crazy stuff like that.
Right.
But that you have to deal with, and obviously you got to kind of handle it between you and the person or the camp, whoever it is, because you can't run back and always tell the fighter, because they're trying to lock in their mind mentally, and so
right.
And I gotta plug Jamel's book. Jamel's book is out. That book is interesting. It's got a lot of stories about crazy stuff. One of the things that we had to deal with was during this Frampton fight. He fought overseas, and we were talking about negotiations. Look, we negotiated a contract to fight in England. Literally, we about faced and turned over and had a fight in Dubai. And I remember that Sunday having to call Jamel and tell him that. And Jamel is such a happy-go-lucky guy that, he wasn't super happy that, like, the fight was being postponed, but he was understanding of it, and he was like, okay, let's do this. And and he's a warrior, man. He hopped on that plane, but to get him to Dubai was a challenge, man. It's in the book. You guys got to, if you haven't had a chance, I recommend you guys to read it. The Fighting Marine, the Jamel Herring story. It's on Amazon, and it's there's some interesting stories in there of things that he's had to overcome in life, and just things related to fights where we've had to go ahead and handle situations just to get him on the plane so he could go do his job. And just one of those things that we had a chance to go ahead and work on his book, and he has a very interesting life that he's lived with a lot of setbacks that would have broken a lot of people. He's had a lot of personal losses. He's a vet. He's done 2 tours in Iraq, and like I said, he's a proud Marine, but he's been through a lot. And just that book is a very good read, and I think a lot of people, what they'll take from it is just perseverance. Because he just keeps going forward, and you can't stop. So yeah, that was my plug for the book, but it's got some good stories.
Absolutely. Well, Jerry, you've given us almost an hour of your time tonight, so we definitely appreciate that you're on the West Coast LA area. We're also in the LA West Coast area, so it makes coordinating these times for these conversations a lot easier. But obviously, before we let you go, obviously you just plugged Jamel Herring's book, The Fighting Marine.
Yes.
Go ahead and plug your social media, and then obviously you have your fight management company alongside Jamel Herring, First to Fight Management. If fighters are interested, if they're listening to this or anything, or anybody who's interested who might have a fighter who wants to approach you guys, what's the best way to get in contact with you and your team?
Yeah, I'm easy on Twitter and on Twitter and on Instagram. It's at Wildcard King. So Wildcard King, all one word. I'm on there, and I'm active on my social media. So if someone sends me a message, I always get back to them. And I get reached out to all the time about fighters, and we start the process of talking to them and figuring out if they're a good fit for us and if we're a good fit for them, and just try to figure out what it is they want to do. There's a lot of fighters that we've talked to over the years, and sometimes they're active amateurs. they're competing at the national level or they're national champions, and they have Olympic dreams. And we're already starting the conversations because they want to always know what's out there. What are my options? So it's cool to be able to go ahead and I'm transparent with the fighters, and I try to go ahead and tell them as much as I can, just so if I can answer some questions for them, great. And like I said, we have our company, First Fight Management. We're based out of here, Southern California, but we work with everybody. We work with everyone, all the different promoters, from Lou DiBella to Golden Boy to Top Rank, Matchroom, PPC. We work with everyone, and just a matter of whoever is a good fit for the fighter, and depending geographically also where the fighter is, because for example, Lou DiBella, he goes ahead and promotes our fighter Micaiah Krebs. She's based out of New York, so that was a good fit. Lou is a huge supporter of women's boxing, so who better than him to go ahead and help her out for her situation. And then Sanista's with Golden Boy. She's an LA fighter, and just like Oscar, she comes from East LA, and that was a good fit for her. And then Jamel, he's fought for both the PBC and now for Top Rank, and Top Rank's been great to us, so that's a good fit for him. And we pride ourselves on the relationships that we have in the sport, and I think that that's good. I don't ever have anything bad to say about promoters as far as being public with anything, because we have good relationships, and a relationship is a partnership, so you want to go ahead and maintain it. And I always say you get more bees with honey, so it's important to have that, and when that's the way we carry ourselves, and as a company and as people, and that's what I like fighters to know about us, that we don't go ahead and we're very professional about how we do things, and it's always important that the fighters first, and that we get them what they need to be successful. So thank you guys for having me, and I'm looking forward to, like I said when I talked to you guys earlier, just getting all these fighters back to the ring. Micaiah's got a fight coming up in March, and then she'll be back in May. Hopefully she'll be on looks like Telemundo is what we're working on for her, so she'll make a Telemundo debut. And then Sanisa looks like she's gonna be back in April, and I'm excited about that. Give her a chance to go ahead and win more belts. Jamel, he's on vacation right now, but looks like we're going to be back in May if all goes well. So it'd be nice to have him back. And then Misael in March, Misael Lopez in March. Matthew Rodriguez Jr. from Michigan. He's an undefeated middleweight. He's fighting on the 11th, so this is his fight week, and I'm excited for him. So, it's and then Michael Gamble, he just came off last week winning in Omaha, Nebraska. So we've got a nice roster of fighters, and I can't go without mentioning we also, for anybody that doesn't know, we signed last year, end of the year, we signed Ryan Martin, blue chip. Yeah, Ryan Martin he's managed by us, so we have big plans for him. He's going back to 135, and we just want to get his feet wet again, get him back in the W column, and then like we always say, we want all the smoke, man. We want all the smoke. So Ryan's in a good position where he can go ahead and really make a run and fight for a world title. So we're excited about his future too. So just thank you guys for the opportunity, and like I said, you can follow me at Wildcard King, and any questions, I'm always active and answer everybody.
You got it, man. We appreciate your time here on the last round, and hopefully we'll see you at the fights in the next couple months, man.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round